Hey you guys, it is your girl jadatyshene back with another video. So a couple of months ago I went viral for this video. This is me doing my brow lamination and tint, and the girls were just eating it up in the comments. So today I'm finally going to show you guys a brow tutorial on how I got these brows, so just keep on watching. Also, this is just a wax and tint video. If you want a lamination video, drop it down in the comments. But this is my brows before we actually start on the process. These are the tools that you're going to need, which is a spoolie, some mini applicators, and also some big applicators for the waxing. You're also going to need some wax strips, and you're going to need a couple of those, and I just cut those up into smaller pieces. Here are the scissors that I use to cut up the wax strips. Here is the gel pen for mapping. You're going to need a small bowl to mix the tint in, and this is also the mapping stream to help me with my shape. This is the color from Brow Code that I'm going to be using, which is Brooklyn Brown. And this is going to be the wax off that I'm going to be using for today after we do our waxing. And lastly, this is just a little bit of oil that came with the tint just to nourish the brows. And this is going to be the developer that you're going to use to mix your tint with. So I did this off camera, but it's always important to make sure your brows are clean and dry before starting. And you could just use some alcohol and some cotton pads just to clean up the brows a little bit. But now I am just combing my brows and getting them in the place that I would like them to be before I start my mapping. So first things first is I go in with my mapping string, and I get a good bit out because I'm going to roll it on my fingers so it doesn't go anywhere in the process of me putting the lines on my face. So please bear with me on this part. I'm not the best explainer, but first we're going to start in the middle of our nose. And you're just going to make a line right there in the middle to start off the mapping. And the next, you see where the inner corner of my eye and the end of my nostril meet? You're going to make a straight line right there, right in front of the eyebrow, a little bit ahead of the eyebrow. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side of the eye, and make sure those two boxes are equivalent to one another. This is so important for the mapping. Now for the next line, you are going to cross in the center of that middle line, and you're going to meet at the bottom of one brow and the beginning of the next brow. And next, switch over and meet at the top of that brow and at the bottom of the other brow. And it's going to make a crisscross for the center line. So for the next line, it's kind of easy for me to already see where my arch is. But if it's not for you, one tip to help you is to look at the end of your cornea. I think that's what it's called. Like right there, as y'all can kind of see. Line the line up with your cornea, and it'll help so much. And I'm sorry if you can't really see because I got my lashes done right now, but I'm just meeting where my eye ends, and I'm just lining it up where I think the end of my brow will end. And I'm also going to drop a reference pic too for you guys for extra help. But these are the lines that I have so far with just the mapping string. To finally start creating the shape, all I'm going to do is follow the lines I already made, you guys. You see the first crisscross? I'm just going to line it up and allow that line to meet my second line. And I'm kind of just doing a curve. And all it is just letting each line that you already created meet one another. And I hope I'm not confusing you guys. You can kind of see what I'm doing in the video. I'm letting each line that we previously made meet so that it can create the shape that we want for our eyebrows. You can also use the mapping string for the bottom part as well, but I didn't in this video for some reason. I actually started to go in with the gel pen, but it is the exact same thing. Like right here, I'm trying to show you guys where you will start, where that line met the other line. And this is right under where my hairs end. So the same thing I'm going to do is just map out the bottom of my brow until it meets the line where my arch is at. And make sure when you are doing this part, you kind of go in an upward angle, as you guys can see, because you do not want the tail of your brow to be thick. So start curving upwards so that it can kind of start to thin out. So right here, after I have met my arch line, I'm kind of curving it because we need the last line to meet one another. So here is the shape that I have so far, and this is just kind of a rough draft, but now I'm just going back in with the mapping line that I did on the top, just so it can make it a little darker for me to see. My gel pen was kind of running out, y'all, so excuse me for that if I'm doing it back and forth, but I was still able to see the shape overall. And so now I'm just doing the same thing that I did on my left, doing it on my right. And as you guys can see, I made the end of that triangle. I just used that line to help map the rest of my brow until I meet the arch line. I hope I'm making sense to y'all. Also, don't forget to have a mirror to make sure you're checking your shape, because it's very important, because we need to get them symmetrical as possible. After I got a kind of rough draft of the shapes that I wanted for my brows, I'm going to go in with this applicator and I'm going to spray it with some alcohol, because we are about to clean up the shape of our brows even more and take away the extra lines that we don't need anymore. So the first lines that I'm going to take away are the lines that we first drew, which is the line in the center, the lines that are, like y'all see, the end of the nose. We're going to take away also the line where the arch meet, and then the line at the end. Once I take away those lines, I actually go back in on the top and the bottom just to thin out that line as much as possible, just so I can get the best shape that works for me. Like you said, like y'all can see, that line is kind of thick towards my tail. So I'm still just going in with an applicator just to make the white lines as thin as possible. If you need a new applicator, please switch it out, but also make sure you spray it with the alcohol before you start to clean up the lines. Also, if you see any lines that you need to clean up, just go back in with the gel pen like I am and just fix it up a little bit. So after I did a little bit of cleaning up, this is the shape of the brows, and this is what it looks like so far. Once you get your desired shape, then now it is time to mix up the tint and the developer. And this is the developer that I'm going to be using. Make sure you guys shake it up before you start. And I'm going to be doing just 1 to 2 drops. You don't need much for this. Next, I'm going to be going in with my brow tint, and this is the color that we're going to be using, which is Brooklyn Brown. Make sure to shake it up as well. And you guys, this is a mix between henna brow and a brow tint, which is called a hybrid stain. And it's going to last a little bit longer than a tint and a little bit less than henna. And it's also more natural than henna. And I didn't show it, but I also did 2 drops of the stain as well. But this is the brow applicator that I'm going to be using today. And everything is linked in my bio, y'all. But I just used that to mix up my tint. So the first place that we're going to start applying the tint is at the tail of the brow, because we want that to be the darkest part. And as you see, you guys, I'm going straight in with it. Make sure that you stay within the lines. It's like coloring, y'all. Make sure you stay in between. And also, if you mess up, make sure to get a dry applicator and clean it up as soon as possible, because we do not want it to stain the skin. For the technique part, what you will do, I'm sorry if y'all can't see it, but it's kind of like short strokes. And if you filled your brows in before, it's kind of the same way. You will do short strokes in the way that your brow hairs are going to create their brow hair effect. After I laid the color on the top, I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the bottom, and that's creating those short strokes, and make sure that it fills up all the way until we reach the end of the tail. Also, it's very important to not put too much product on the brush when you're starting to apply the tint. But once I got the desired shape of my tail, I'm going to use a dry applicator and just clean it up where those white lines are. Do not go in the lines, but just make sure you go on the lines or outside of the white lines. And here's me showing you guys the same process that I just did. Make sure you stay within those white lines. And I just go on the top and then the bottom. And make sure it meets all the way at the tail. Once you're done with that, you're going to use a dry applicator again, like we did on the other side. And clean it up so the shape can be crispy. Again, I'm so sorry if it's hard for y'all to see what I'm doing, but the next thing that I'm doing is just continuing to move forward and just laying the rest of the color. After we finish the tail, I'm going forward to like kind of the middle of the brow. And I started at the top, then I did the bottom. And it's still the same process, brow-like strokes. And after, I'm cleaning it up. Again, make sure to check your shape throughout in a mirror. And here I am doing the same thing on the other side. If you need it to be a little more precise, it's okay to go in with a smaller applicator. I usually go in with both, but it's totally okay to use both of them. As we continue to move forward, it's still the same process. It's just when I kind of get towards the middle, I turn my brush like flat, like y'all can see, and I still do the brush like strokes because it's water in the middle of where my brow is. So I just try to get more product at a faster rate than doing the brush like strokes. But I still do it for the top of the bottom just so I won't mess up the lines. Again, after I laid the rest of the tint, I'm going to go back in with a smaller applicator just to make sure that the lines and the brow is still crispy. As y'all can see, this is the last place where I'm kind of laying a tint where it's going to be super dark. As you guys can see, I kind of leave like a box on where my brows begin because we're not going to really lay much product on that part. But after I lay majority of tint where y'all can see it, I'm going to use the excess of tint that I already have on my brow. And I'm going to start fading it upward at the start of where my brow starts at. And this is going to make your eyebrows gradient so you won't have blocky brows. But for the top of the brow, I still go in and create that line because I still want the shape of my brow to be crispy. Just the rest in the middle to be gradient. So after, I'm just going to clean up again and make sure I didn't get any tint outside of those white lines. And here is how the brow looks so far. After I clean that one up, I'm going to do the same process on the other brow. After I let that sit the beginning of the brow for a little bit, probably a minute, I'm going to use a small applicator to kind of take off the excess tint so it won't be blocky and dark. So after I let the beginning of my brow sit for like maybe 2 to 3 minutes, I'm going to go in with a dry cotton pad and just wipe off the excess that's in the front. And it's a dry cotton pad, you guys. Do not wet it up. And while I let the rest of my brows process, I'm going to be going in with some wax. While my brows are processing, this is the time where I wax my brows just to get an extra crispy shape and remove the excess hair that's not in the lines of where my brow is. Also, here's a tip: when you are laying your wax, make sure you lay the wax in the way that your hair lays. So if your hair is facing downwards, you will place the wax downwards. And when you are placing the wax strip on it, you are going to rub the wax downward as well. So when it's time to pull, you're going to pull the opposite way. And I'm going to show you guys a couple of times as well. So as you guys can see, I'm just following on that line of that white line, kind of a little bit above as well, just to be a guide on where to place my wax. And try not to have too much wax on the applicator. Once I lay my wax, I'm going to go in with another strip. And again, as you guys can see, rubbing it in kind of where the way that I place my wax, because we're going to pull it the opposite way. I honestly love this step of the brow tint and wax process, because this is the part where you really get the shape really crispy and the perfect shape that you want it. So now I am laying the rest of the wax just for the top of the brow, and I do mine in sections. This just helps me. You can do the whole brow if you need to, but now I'm just laying the wax and not using too much before I go in with my wax strip. And if you still have a little bit of excess of wax on you, what I do is fold my wax strip that I just used, and I just kind of tap it like you guys see. So I do the same thing for the bottom. I use a tiny bit of wax, and I'm just following that white line that we previously used, just to make sure that I get that shape extra crispy. So here is how my brow looks after I waxed it. Here is the side wax, and here is the side not wax. If you still see a couple of hairs that's under the brow, you can go in with tweezers just to clean up the shape even more. So for me, I like a natural brow. So after I did my one brow, I kind of wiped it off. If you still feel like your brows aren't dark enough, you can continue on to wax the other brow and leave the tint on. I should have done it because it would have been okay for my brows to still be a little bit dark, but I just went ahead and wiped it. And after I wiped all of the tint off, I'm going in with my spoolie just to brush my hairs back in place, and then I'm gonna wipe one more time. And then I'm wiping the other brow too, because we want them to process at the same time. You don't want one brow to be darker than the other. After I wipe it off, I can still see my shape as well, so it's still going to be okay for you to wax. And I'm still going to brush my hair back in place, and I'm doing the same process. Even though you don't see the white lines, you can still see the shape that you used, and just follow the shape of the brow and you'll be okay. After I finish waxing, I'm going to brush my eyebrows out with a spoolie just to get the brows back in place. And now I'm going to use our wax off just to get off any excess of wax that still might be on my hair, not my hair, on my skin, or even if I got some on my hair. This is going to get all of the excess wax off. I forgot to say this, but I also use the wax off to get off any excess tint that still is on my brows. To get a really crispy brow, y'all, this is the trick. After you got all the tint, all the excess wax off, you're gonna go back in with the brow tint that's something that you still have left in your bowl, and you're just gonna outline the brow. You're not going to fill it in again, just outline the shape of the brow. I swear this is a game changer. I just started doing this and my brows turn out so crispy and sharp every time. And I don't leave it on that long, maybe like, I don't know, like 30 seconds to a minute. You don't have to leave it on that long. Just let it process for a little bit before you wipe it back off. And here how it looks without the tint. And the other side still has a little bit of tint on the bottom, but this is kind of how the shape is so far. So this is the final look. Here is the before, and then here is the after. They always turn out so good, so fire when I do them, and I love them every time. And I hope this video also helped you guys as well. Let me know in the comments what other videos you guys want me to do. Also, let me know if this video helped you. I love y'all. Bye.